Well, I want to talk about 5G, of course. It's a huge force, but before that, I want to talk about China. Last week, you tweeted, if this is how China is willing to use its leverage over basketball, referring to this Hong Kong NBA controversy, esports and flag emojis, imagine what could happen if we let Chinese companies' equipment into America's 5G networks. Is this really either shifting or underscoring your position on China and 5G, this whole NBA controversy, and how?
Well, I do think that the security of our telecom networks is paramount, especially as we emerge into a 5G environment. And the point I was making is that to the extent that the Chinese government is willing to use its leverage over things like basketball and esports and flag emojis, it does raise concerns when Chinese manufacturers' equipment goes into our networks. And those manufacturers are subject to Chinese law, which requires any manufacturer to comply with requests from the intelligence services. And so I was simply raising the point that we need to be careful about what equipment and services go into our networks. We need to use trusted vendors, and especially as these networks are interconnected with other countries around the world, we need our allies to understand our concerns as well.
Yeah, speaking of U.S. 5G, you've got Auction 103 coming up in just a bit. It's going to make more spectrum available than any auction in American history, 3,400 megahertz of spectrum. This is high band. Fixed wireless broadband is the expected use of a lot of this. AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, U.S. Cellular, Verizon, Dish, all participating. What does success look like for this? Is it the winners really launching wireless broadband services that competes with cable? And how long do you expect that should take?
Well, it's part of our strategy, this upcoming auction, which, as you pointed out, will be the largest in American history. We also have auctions slated in the mid-band spectrum coming up next year. And our overall goal is to put the building blocks for 5G innovation in place and let entrepreneurs and innovators figure out how best to use it. It could be high bandwidth applications like residential broadband. It could be low bandwidth applications like industrial IoT. We don't know exactly where the industry is going to go, but to borrow from a line that Vince Vaughn gave to your previous guest, 5G is going to be money. We just don't know it exactly yet. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to allow that innovation to take place here and on our shores.
So much beautiful spectrum in here. So, Chairman, Sprint T-Mobile still going through the process here. State of Colorado just dropped out of the multi-state lawsuit. Mississippi had dropped out already. Does the market need Sprint T-Mobile to go through in order to be successful in 5G, or is that just extra?
Well, I do think the consummation of this deal will be a major boost for the public interest. One commitment of that merger, as you probably know, is that the new company will deploy 5G, 50 megabit per second service or greater, to 99% of the American population within 6 years. That is a tremendous benefit. It makes sure that that digital divide closes on the wireless side, that no Americans are going to be left behind when it comes to the digital revolution. And also, Sprint's mid-band spectrum assets combined with T-Mobile's low-band and high-band assets, I think will present a very formidable competitor. And so I actually think it's going to boost competition in many ways, in addition to the entrance of Dish. So I think the consummation of that deal is a good deal for the American consumer.
I want to ask you about net neutrality, because I can never talk to you without talking about net neutrality. You're still dealing with blowback on Twitter over that. BuzzFeed has done an investigation into the comments over net neutrality, pointing the finger at consulting operations that sent a flood of fake comments to the FCC opposing net neutrality. Some of this can be traced back to money from the cable lobby, apparently including Comcast, our parent. Did the FCC make a mistake not taking these fake comments seriously enough when New York was raising concerns about it? And what do you see as being the future of public comment in this era of so much fake communication?
Well, first, the overwhelming story coming out of the net neutrality discussion in 2017 is that we made the right decision. When we made that decision, there were a lot of hysterical predictions, the end of the internet as we know it, the internet will work one word at a time, speeds will slow down. As a matter of fact, infrastructure investment was up $3 billion in 2018. Speeds in the United States are up over 50% since we made our decision. And judging from all the commentary on Twitter, no one is being held back from expressing their views. With respect to the record, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit recently reaffirmed that the FCC abided by the Administrative Procedure Act, including by having substantial evidence for its decisions. And if you look at our decision, we didn't rely on all the extraneous commentary, the forum commentary that came, for example, the 400,000 or so fake comments purportedly coming from Russia. We relied on substantial evidence that was in our record, and I'm glad that the court in Washington saw it our way.
You bring up a good point, one that's definitely in the news, Chairman, about, say, for instance, Facebook and its responsibility with the responsibility that comes with carrying political ads. How dangerous is it if we were to say that a platform like that could be the voice as to whether or not an ad took place or not?
That is one of the issues that is beyond our jurisdiction. We don't directly regulate companies like Facebook when it comes to election ads, but there's clearly a lot of commentary on Capitol Hill, on the campaign trail, and amongst the American public about what to do with that kind of situation. It's something that we monitor, but we don't directly regulate it, so I can't express an opinion about what should be done in terms of changing the law or applying the law.
If you could quickly address, though, my question about public comment was more about, is there any value to it anymore when there's so much fraud going on? Does the FCC, do you have a view in how to actually give real people in the public an actual voice on these issues?
Oh, absolutely. On one hand, we want to err on the side of openness. We want as many Americans as possible to participate in our proceedings. And on the other hand, one of the things we're looking at is how to upgrade our system, for example, by including a CAPTCHA to verify that it is, in fact, a legitimate individual filing that comment. And that's the balance that we're trying to strike here, promoting public participation while preserving the integrity of the overall comment system. And that's something that regulators across the country are going to be struggling with in the time to come.